one of the things that I think a lot of the questions that I had when we were trying to think of, those things that people who are reading our blog, got very interested in. And, one of the things that led a number of us to support your candidacy in the primary in particular was not just about, change as a way to reset the status quo here in the state and the way that, the government was run, but also possibly the change in the way that the Democratic Party functions. And I wonder if you wanted to comment about what you might be able to influence in terms of, opening up or resetting the status quo there, so that
I haven't, obviously since I'm trying to win an election, I haven't spent as much time focused on that. And right now we're working cooperatively with the party to elect as many of my colleagues as we possibly can. So let me just sort of step back and talk a little more philosophically. You probably won't be surprised to hear that I'm not a big fan of parties endorsing in a primary.
Neither are they.
Yeah. So
the point of our question.
Yeah. So I think that would be a change that I personally would like to see. I want to see. I have been so energized by the people who surrounded my campaign. The young people. It's not only young people, but certainly the young people got so into it, were so focused, were so inspired, not by me, but by the idea that they, working with others, could win. And so what I want to do is I want to have a party that keeps that mood alive, and that draws as many people as possible, and that's about issues. I think I have a lot of respect for John Carney. I think he's a very good guy. I think he's a very talented public servant, and I think in many ways, there were a lot of people who said this party, the primary, is going to divide the party and make the party weaker. And I really believe that if John and I could both run, which I think we did, issues-oriented campaigns, that would be to the benefit of the party. And I think that's exactly what you're seeing now. If you look at it's not just because I published a book, but if you look at the kind of campaign that I ran and I continue to run, and then you compare it to the kind of campaign that the Republicans are running, these are very different campaigns. The Republican, Joe, you can always kick me under the table here.
Let me get a camera on that.
He hasn't yet. But, a couple weeks ago, maybe it was even last week, the Republican ticket talked about their fiscal responsibility plan. Basically, it was criticism of DeFi, and not a whole lot else. When Matt Den and I released our fiscal responsibility plan yesterday, and I don't know if you've seen it yet, it was very detailed and very substantive. And that doesn't mean you're going to agree. The danger, of course, instead of dealing with bloggers, you guys are very ideas-oriented people yourself, so there's a lot. When I published a book that was 83 pages, there's plenty in there that you may not like. But I was taking a bet that though you may disagree with the substance, you would respect the fact that I believe that I owe it to the people of the state to explain my sense of the challenges facing the state, as well as my specific thoughts about where we ought to go from here. And so in the same way, I think that, I really believe that politics and campaigns are supposed to be about ideas. So if you look, even yesterday again, that same press conference we held about fiscal responsibility, this was a very different kind of press conference because Matt and I appeared together, but even more importantly, we were joined by 13 candidates for the General Assembly, 3 incumbent state representatives, and then 10 challengers for either the open seat or not in the House and the Senate. And some of them are branding at our invitation our policy position. So Brian Short, for example, I think is a really good state representative, yesterday sent an email out to like 700 of his supporters talking about the fiscal responsibility plan that we're all running on. What kind of... I think that puts us in such a strong position as a party, because if we are known as the party of ideas, and there shouldn't be a lot of confusion to people. When should I be fortunate to be elected, nobody should be all that surprised by what I try to get done when I get there, because I've already written it down. And so I think that is what parties are supposed to be known for. It's not about the gotcha politics. And the fact is, on primary day, we had I think the number is 900. It's at least 900 volunteers out on election day. This is not without any party machinery or anything like that. These are people who said, you know what, we want a campaign of ideas, and we like this.